Hi world, it's the 27th of March 2020. The world's in lockdown. Yours truly has been in lockdown for about 5 or 6, 7 days now. Still coughing like a good one. Sense of humour, brilliant. So over a quarter of the population in the world are now self-isolating. It's just been announced in the UK that the Prince Charles has had a positive coronavirus test, and just in the last couple of hours we've heard that the British Prime Minister Boris Johnson and the British Health Secretary Matt Hancock have both been diagnosed positive for coronavirus, which makes me wonder how the hell did they get their tests ahead of all the other people who have been queuing for days and people who have been really sick who can't get tests yet. Because you're a politician, you get a test straight away. No inequality there then. Anyway, I'm not here to rant about that. The vast majority of people on this planet at this time are doing exactly the right thing. Begrudgingly, but still the right thing. They're staying away from other humans. Seems to me, if for those of you who are or practicing astrologers or astrological students, if you have software, look at a heliocentric map of the sky today. 95% of horoscopes that are put out there are geocentric. The Earth is in the centre, or the individual is in the centre. But every so often it's interesting to look at the heliocentric horoscope where the sun is in the centre. The main difference, of course, is if the sun is in the middle, there are no retrogrades. From the heliocentric chart, today, Mars and Mercury are conjunct at 18 degrees of Sagittarius, square Neptune at 18 degrees of Pisces. This is a phenomenon that will only be for one day because heliocentrically, Mercury moves about 4 degrees a day. It suggests to me, as we head into the sting at the end of the tail, at the very end of March, that we are at some type of nexus point with this virus right now. There are countries in the world that are seemingly over the worst and just beginning to recover. China, Korea. There are countries in the world who are at peak. And just in the last couple of days, the number of deaths are beginning to slightly taper off, i.e. Italy. And there are countries in the world where the escalation is still rapidly accelerating, i.e. the USA. So it's an ongoing thing. But most people are staying indoors, apart from going out and getting a lot of exercise. I'm seeing lots of people who I don't normally see running and walking, and so we're going to have a nation of fitness freaks by the time this is over. We're also going to have lots of Capricorns born next year, which is a slightly worrying thing, and there's going to be lots. It's going to be a big push on the on the health services in January, with all those Capricorns being born at that time. I want to talk about this idea of being alone. There's a lot of people in isolation who live alone, myself included. Now, there's a difference between being alone and being lonely. You can be alone in a room full of people. One of the things that nobody's talking about yet, not majorly, because it's not convenient to talk about it yet, is that this enforced isolation by so many people is going to bring about an upsurge in both domestic violence and mental health issues. It's also going to see a significant downturn in the alcohol trade, but that's not a bad thing. Take away the 10% of those troublesome cases though. A lot of people are being alone. So what constitutes alone when looked at from an astrological perspective? Well, there are certain types of people from an astrological perspective who are actually very comfortable on their own. It's not down to individual sun signs. Anybody with a lot of planets, or even more than one planet in the 12th house, knows what it means to be alone. The 12th house is the area of the unconscious, the subconscious, the transpersonal, the dream, the vision, the idea, the incomprehensible. It's impossible to understand the 12th house because the 12th house is the unconscious, and we use the conscious to try and understand things. If you can think about it, it's not 12th house. The 12th house is where we can never understand. It's where sometimes, if we're well tuned into our bodies, that we can know, sense, feel, guess, dream and intuit, but we can't understand. And people with a strong 12th house presence and people with a strong Neptune in their charts, and by a strong Neptune I mean lots of aspects to their Neptune, whether they're positive and or challenging, will know about being alone. Sometimes they feel like they're on their own even if they're surrounded by people, because they feel like they're on the wrong planet at the wrong time. The sign of Pisces itself, which is the 12th sign relating to the 12th house, is also a sign that's quite comfortable on its own. The idea for many people of just sitting on a beach and reading a book and letting the sound of the waves wash through you is very much a feature of being alone. And by doing that, you can not only recharge your batteries, you can kind of reboot your soul as well. Certain experiences in raw nature, such as lying on a beach or sitting on a cliff top and hearing the wind, or sitting in a forest just listening to the sound of the trees and the birds, it's actually really good for rebooting one's soul. Of course, with the current pandemic around, everybody's being most people are being good citizens, looking after their neighbours, looking out for people around them. Fine. But there is a case for saying, look, we've got this chance now to be alone. To actually be alone in ourselves, with ourselves. Self-isolation. So why not use this to actually develop and resonate in and with the relationship we have with ourselves? I always say that to clients that you can't be in a good relationship with anyone else if you're not first of all in a good relationship with yourself. And perhaps the single best way to be in a good relationship with yourself is to spend quality time with yourself alone. So the idea of using this time in a proactive and productive way, not just catching up on the filing, finishing off that long email list, cleaning the house, getting fit and healthy, but also being with oneself. What a great time for being alone. I strongly suspect that in a few days we're going to see further developments which are going to change the dynamic once again. Probably by the start of next, well, it's the 27th today, 28th, 29th, 30th, 31st, first on Wednesday. By Wednesday, Thursday, I expect we'll be seeing more dynamics worldwide. They're going to change the way that we're dealing with situations, because by then Mars and Saturn will have been conjunct in a different sign, in Aquarius. Meantime, thank you for all of the jokes. If you can't laugh at a time like this, you're not human. So here's the best of the rest. There are loads more in the can, don't worry. But these have come in off the blog in the last few days. What's the difference between a poorly dressed person riding a tricycle and a very poshly dressed person wearing a bicycle? The answer is attire. You have to think about it. No coronavirus as yet in Antarctica. That's because they're all in isolation. Okay, these aren't very good, but okay, they're brewing up to the good one. You know what the weather forecast is to say? Red sky at night, shepherd's delight. Blue sky at night, daytime. But the best one came from about 3 days ago. It just made me I read it, and it's one of those where you just spontaneously burst into loud laughter. It's really, really funny. I forget the name of the person, but you know who you are. There's been a big upsurge in my local area in crime on and in multi-storey car parks. This is just so wrong on so many different levels. On that note, catch you later. Don't be scared of being alone. It actually builds self-confidence, self-belief, builds character. Yes, there's friends and community. But first, you've got to be good on your own. Happy isolation. Catch you soon. Bye.